deceit. A view into the depths of society upon which this country has fallen. A storm frowns upon the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts? Not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast. But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Homer, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
And welcome to Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist, your host, and today is February 26th in the year of all of us, 2026. I do have a pretty good show lined up. Again, it's something I put together on the fly this morning, but synchronicities keep aligning in my life that seem to be allowing me to just put shows together on the fly, and they're turning out to be okay. Thank goodness. This past weekend, Funnel 5 took place on the 21st and 22nd. I did my presentation called The Hammer and the Flame. It was well received. I was thankful. There was a little bit of chiding in the comments, but nothing serious. There was people who appreciated the authenticity, and they really wanted to hear my story. You know, the story of a guy who left police work, became an anarchist. A spiritual anarchist, one that's not violent, okay? Because remember, an comes from the Greek prefix meaning without. Archon means ruler, so anarchy just really means without a ruler. The world has a lot of rulers right now, doesn't it? How are we doing with that so far? Yeah, not real well. Now, where I'm at, in my little area, there's a couple peninsulas, there's a lot of community, and people will come together and help each other, and there's no quote-unquote authority there to do anything to keep people in line, and what do you know? People aren't murdering each other. People help each other. It's amazing. It is truly amazing that people will do the right thing most of the time. In fact, the wrong things seem to get done when you complicate them with somebody being in a position of quote unquote so-called authority. No human being in creation has a right to rule through the coercive use of violence over any other human being. When we begin to understand that is when we will become a free society. This is going to be an episode that I do on natural law, on objective morality, and the journey of the hero. The journey of the hero, which I am not a hero. I have to give a disclaimer. If you don't like, because it's called Coffee Morning Rants, if you don't like profanity or bad language, street language, the kind that everyone will understand, if you're offended by that, authentic truth with authentic communication that everyone can understand, I highly recommend you don't listen to this radio show right now, especially today. If you're a person who does not like profanity, occasional, not every other sentence, I have yet to use one cuss word. I'm not angry. I'm in control of my focused anger. So when you hear me get angry today, it's real, it's cathartic, but it's honest. It's authentic. And you'll see me get calmly just as quick. Because I'm balanced. And that's what balanced, focused anger should do. If you're okay with children's heads being chopped off, children being blown up, raped, or eaten, or any other human being having harm brought to them through violence, but profanity is bad, you're a fucking idiot. Quit listening to my show right now. Okay? Now, so with that said, today I realized that yesterday Mercury went into retrograde. So I like to call this Mercury is Gatorading again. So what does that mean? And it's Gatorading direct in Pisces, which is contradicting, conflicting energies. I'm not super into this, but I know enough about it because it does affect human behavior. We are 75% water. This is science. This isn't woo-woo magic. And things that happen cosmically, things that happen with the tidal energies, the moon, all this stuff will affect how people behave. And right now you could expect miscommunications, short fuses and anger, and emotions coming to the surface. And it's very important to go revisit old traumas. Stay to yourself for a little bit if you can, if you could afford to. Revisit old traumas, work through them, and don't let yourself be triggered by people. Okay? Don't watch the news. Give it a break. You know, pick up a guitar. I'm still practicing the blues scales on my guitar, but I play my guitar now every day with my dog. Yes, he helps. I've had this real inkling lately to reread the Icewind Dale trilogy and the Dark Elf trilogy from the Forgotten Realms, and I realized, oh, it's because you want to revisit things that make you feel good. So go revisit those things. Read a book you liked. Rewatch a movie you liked. Do something that helps you feel good. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you probably really should during this time when Mercury is Gatorading. It started Gatorading today. Yesterday, it's going to do so until March 20th. And then on the 22nd of March, we will be entering March. Well, March Madness is always called March Madness for a reason. On the 22nd of March to May 1st is 40 days of the occult season of sacrifice. I should say the dark occult season of sacrifice, because all occult means is to hide. If I occult my cup of coffee, that means I've hidden it. Doesn't mean that my cup of coffee is evil. Speaking of which, let me take a sip. Okay, you're gonna see they're gearing up things right now. All the ops are going on, and there's gonna be some events that'll probably happen. Start towards late March and into April. It's a very very active time for the dark occult season of sacrifice. We live on a soul garden prison planet that feeds off of blood. And in their little dark rituals, they want to spill blood. I'll never understand the evil. I've got my ideas of what our reality is about and why we seem to be in this never-ending loop. But we're going to get into that a little bit today. I don't want to call this March Madness. I'm wanting to call this, we're entering into March of Miracles, the March of Miracles. I want to counteract March Madness with the March of Miracles. So let's start looking at the little miracles in our life. And not give any more power to these satanic beings that want to subvert our entire planet into evil and slavery. Now that brings me to something I wanted to talk about in the freedom community, and that simply is this. Every once in a while, I'll make a comment on somebody's post, or I'll make a comment on someone else's post that's not even in the community. And every once in a while, the post will disappear, or the post will be taken down. Okay, I understand now why this is called the My Freedom Movement by some people. I understand the anger that some people have had at the My Freedom Movement. See, there's this book that was written called The 49 Laws of Power. And it's a good book for hierarchical systems. I think it's a bad time in history for us to be worrying about that. One of those laws of power says to zealously guard, watch out for, and protect your six from up-and-comers in your field of work once you're already at a certain level of success. Because you can be overtaken. Ooh. Personally, in all areas of life, I don't care if my position is overtaken if I'm not being victimized. As a martial arts teacher, if I have a student that surpasses me, I did my job. As a person in this world who's had to work to make money, if someone got a promotion and they didn't backstab for it and they're making a little more money, congratulations. We're not in a time frame in history where if you're a content creator and you're erasing the comments of other content creators because your fucking page is monetized, you're not doing no work. You're not doing the great work. You're not doing nothing. You're the self-help community. You're helping yourself. You're not helping humanity. There is nothing that you're doing for altruistic reasons. There's no reason to delete someone's comment who doesn't even have a monetized page. You're stopping the flow of communication. I have one guy who did it. He's an ex-Marine. He runs a good tactical channel. He's done that to me before. And I was just like, holy shit, we are sempre fucked if that's what's going on. Now he's using some of the language that I use, and people that have influenced me, I see him using that language. He obviously went to my page and other pages and checked some stuff out. Well, good. I'm glad. But he still didn't want other people to do so because he's afraid he's going to lose audience. I'm not about any of that stuff, man. I'm telling you, I'm just not. I'm not doing this for the money. Sometimes it is cathartic, but I would much rather live in the woods by myself and not be bothered with anything and just have freedom. Is that too much to ask for? So, now that part of my rant is over, I'm going to just get going into this. I said we're going to talk about the hero's journey. So, the hero's journey, to me, is predictive programming. It's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism bullshit to me. It is a dysfunctional loop that says, I will suffer by sticking my hand in the fire until it burns off to demonstrate my heroic attempts to save others. There's a book out there called The Power of Myth that gets into this psychology, and then get into Star Wars and other type of psychologies with the hero, that I believe is fundamentally flawed. It's a fundamentally flawed romanticization of suffering that is needless. Okay, let's think in the Odyssey. Okay, in the Odyssey, Odysseus' heroic journey. the imperfect hero, right? The imperfect hero, his return to Penelope, which is always the dark side of sex. It equals control, right? In movies like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker has all this suffering. Jesus is murdered and tortured for our sins, which I'm going to get to. And they're not even sins, they're signs. Signs comes from the Greek word. It originates meaning it has something to do with archery or missing the mark, making a mistake, getting something incorrect, right? It has nothing to do with the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins have nothing to do with anything more than warnings of excess. And it normalizes victimhood. It's manipulative. I'm naming something here that most people feel they can get this at some level, but they don't have the language or some way to articulate it. Okay, the hero's journey, as popularly taught, becomes a psychological trap rather than a liberating myth. Okay, and I'm right. The version we have been fed in religion, movies, pop mythology is not neutral storytelling. It shapes how people think they're supposed to live. It normalizes all this dysfunction. And what I'm describing is not a misunderstanding of the hero's journey. It's a critique of the cultural weaponization of it. The core issue I'm pointing at. Okay? The modern hero's journey teaches us suffering is noble. Self-sacrifice is proof of worth. Pain is the gateway to meaning. You must leave home, lose everything, and nearly die to be transformed. Return to the old world means accepting your role in the system. This is not mythic truth. This is conditioning. It trains people to tolerate abuse, not have any boundaries, stay in broken systems, and see endurism as a virtue. My mom stayed with my stepdad for a lot of years. She would have never left him had he not died of cancer. That was endurism. You don't stay in a relationship that does not nurture you and nourish you positively. That's personal relationships, and that's relationships with any group around you. Okay? It's the martyr loop. I will burn myself to show I care. That's not heroism. That's trauma reenactment dressed up as destiny. Nobody has control of our fucking destiny. And this is why it feels like predictive programming, because it is. Psychologically, socially, historically, the hero's journey became the backbone of Hollywood storytelling. Hey, we're all on the underdog side, except when it's in real life and we have no fucking courage. Religious narratives, right? The Jesus story has been told 40 different times before Jesus. Okay? National myths, corporate branding, military recruitment. It's self-help, the self-help culture. It normalizes victimhood as identity. You constantly have to be doing your shadow work. You know what? The garden needs to be reweeded, but as soon as you start using that as a crutch for your pathology, it doesn't work anymore. You're not really facing the real you in the mirror like you need to. It frames suffering as initiation, endurance as morality, and returning to the same system that harmed you. So every 4 years, let's get a Democrat in office, and every other fucking 4 years, let's get a Republican in office. That'll change. Let's vote more harder. We'll make a difference. Can you see them working together now for our ultimate demise? All the leaders of the world locked us down 6 years ago. No to the people on the right. Don't try to get your pound of flesh back against the blue and purple-haired freaks who've been mind-controlled, because both sides are guilty. They've worked in correspondence with one another. Okay? One of the Hermetic principles is correspondence. Their actions are corresponding to one another, thereby helping each other meet the end that they want to meet. Okay, it's a loop that keeps us, in general, it keeps us compliant, exhausted, which I am, and not really. I take that back. And if I was exhausted, I wouldn't be on here talking, honestly. And don't think I'm like getting super angry here, but I am, and everybody should be. It's a loop that keeps us compliant, exhausted, and spiritually malnourished by people who are fucking spiritually bankrupt. And I know I used to be one. I got out of it. Okay? The Odysseus example, the return, as control. I know I'm right about the Odyssey. The return is not a triumph. It's a reassertion of patriarchal order. Penelope is loyalty, chastity, and control. Odysseus is violence, cunning. Let's win. Hey, if you're cunning, you'll win a debate, even if you're fucking wrong. Good job, you're cunning, right? Violence, cunning, dominance. And the suitors for this woman that didn't have a husband there for 20 years, they're chaos that needs to be purged. It's not a love story. It's a story about restoring hierarchy. The dark side of sex equals control. It's absolutely part of the architecture. Penelope is a symbol of possession, not partnership. Then we get Luke Skywalker and Jesus, the martyr archetype. Luke Skywalker, his suffering is framed as purification. His refusal to fight his father, Vader, is framed as sainthood. And his pain is the proof of his destiny. You know, Jesus, the ultimate martyr narrative. Torture equals love. Death equals salvation. Suffering is virtue. Why do I have to wait to die to have a good life or to have sweetness in my life? Who's trying to make me think this? Who's trying to make us think this? Who benefits from us thinking, wow, when we finally die, he's in a better place now? How the fuck do you know that if you don't remember past lives and you've only had this life? They're mind controlling us. And the most powerful psychological trick script ever created for teaching people to accept harm as holy, sin as missing the mark. It meant you missed the target, you made an error in judgment. It's not moral evil, it's not cosmic guilt, it's not inherited shame. There is no such thing as sin. Later on, the church turned it into a control mechanism, which they still do. Separation of church and state. Would that even have to be a slogan if there really was separation of church and state? These are the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves as we look around. I think the journey of the hero, the real problem, is it romanticizes unnecessary suffering. And this is at the heart of my critique. The hero's journey, as popularly taught, says, if you're hurting, you're on the right path. If you're sacrificing yourself, you're noble. Let me break there for a second before I finish this little list. I'm not saying anything worth doing doesn't take work and dedication. I'm not saying sometimes things are going to get uncomfortable. Yoga, jiu-jitsu, these are things that have physically taught me to get comfortable in very uncomfortable positions. And it translates to life. Some of the things I've publicly said, you think that's comfortable for me? Shit, that's none of nobody's fucking business. Oh, if you're exhausted, you're becoming who you're meant to be. No. You need to take a break if you're exhausted, because you're not going to function correctly or do the right thing if you're tired. They keep us tired and afraid because we're easier to control. If you're suffering, it's for a higher purpose. No, sometimes it's the purpose is there's beings that like to see you suffer. There's people that like to see you suffer. They like to manipulate you. They like to have some type of control in their life because they feel like they have no control in any other way. I won't even get into the supernatural aspect of it, where I believe there's some archons or some force that's interdimensional that does feed off of our shame, our fear, and that loosh energy, as they call it. I do think this is a loosh farm, prison, soul garden prison planet, in a never-ending loop. But I think we could break the loop. This is the reason why people stay in abusive relationships, exploitive jobs, toxic families, oppressive systems, self-destructive patterns. I've had to get out of my own patterns here and there. I have actually purposely and consciously, this was the most important part, consciously gone back into those patterns and left those patterns just to prove I'm in control. When I first awoke to what's going on in the world, I started drinking pretty heavily again. This is several years back. I knew what I was doing. There was no drinking myself back to sleep. Now I just wake up the next day with a headache knowing what the hell's going on in the world. Okay? Pain is not meaningful. It's not. Pain is just pain. Unless it leads to clarity, boundaries, and agency. Last thing they want people having is boundaries. Okay? And the antidote is built on alignment with yourself and others. Alignment over suffering. Clarity over martyrdom. Agency, togetherness, congruency over endurance. Love is the law under all things. Love over sacrifice. Movement over stagnation. Truth over narrative. All they do is throw a narrative at us. Change the narrative, reframe it, and make it into something it's not. And this is going to be important in a few minutes of what I'm going to be talking about. Okay? You don't need to burn your hand to prove anything. You don't need to die to save anyone. You don't need to return to the old world to validate your journey. Your myth is not a loop. It is a vector. It's a direction. I think right now, the direction humanity is heading in is one towards mutual assured destruction. And what will emerge after that will be slavery. More so than we've ever had it. But people will be happy in their slavery. They won't know any better. So instead of calling it the hero's journey, why not the sovereign's journey? No forced suffering, no martyrdom, no return to the old world, no submission to the system, no glorification of pain, no tests designed by external forces. I'm personally sick of tests. I kind of get it. Sometimes you need to vet somebody once or twice. If the vetting has to continue, and I'm not speaking to anybody currently that I've had anything going on with in the physical 3D, if the vetting has to continue, I'm not the guy for the fucking job. Stop vetting. I'm done. And I'm saying this in a manner that's not for me personally. Okay? Just in general. People who are constantly doing that, test, they're manipulative. They've got things they haven't healed. All right? Instead, self-chosen challenges, alignment instead of sacrifice, union instead of control. Okay? Voluntarism. Clarity instead of obedience. No one has clarity right now. Everyone's just following orders, listening to whatever you're told. That's obedience. When you believe everything you're told, that's obedience. Good dog, sit. Good job. Give me a paw. Fucking dogs would know when to attack something that's predating on them. Creation instead of endurance. This is the way to live. And somebody might question, what brought this about? Why am I talking like this, or what am I thinking of? After being at Freedom Under Natural Law, well, of course, I'm going to start thinking about. I spoke at Freedom Under Natural Law. I watched other presentations. I had something go on where one of my, not with anything with Freedom Under Natural Law, something unrelated. I had a comment get totally deleted, and I'm just thinking, wow. So I'm going to, of course, be thinking about freedom under natural law and what type of congruency and teamwork is needed for that to happen. I'm not seeing it. So my thought on this is we are being kept in the fantasy of the realm of effects instead of objectively looking at the realm of causality, which is not understanding the principle of the cosmic law of causation, aka karma, natural law. I see patterns on how so-called authority is misused through narrative, trickery, and lies. Okay? Let's not even get to authority. Think about that old prank. Someone knocks at the door, you answer, and a guy standing there with a pizza to deliver to you, and you never ordered the pizza. Okay? Then let's move to something else. Back in the 90s, this was a big thing, and in the early 2000s, it got big. The late 90s, early mid 2000s. It's similar, but it's way more dangerous. It's called swatting. And that was happening a lot. Somebody anonymous would give a fake hostage situation or a guy with a weapon or something in a house, a story, they would lie. And then this place would be raided by a SWAT team or big SWAT teams outside the house and something, all right, what the hell's going on here? And now the big thing is welfare checks. Welfare checks are being weaponized. You see, people have to learn objective morality and understand that obfuscating morals do not change the effect on humanity. Okay? Historically, we've seen this. There's geographical evidence of cataclysmic events, reset events, with other advanced civilizations. Okay, we've been wiped out before. If we don't do it to each other, nature's going to self-correct. Okay, so objective morality. Let me back up for a second. With what I'm seeing with welfare checks. If I gave my house rent, this hasn't happened to me, but it's something I could envision, so I'm going to talk about it because I know it's happened to other people. I got big windows, I got a big window door. Somebody comes and looks into my cabin, they're going to see a nice place set up. Nobody's screaming, no blood, no weapons laying around, and all of a sudden someone knocks at the door. Hey, are you Daniel Arnold? Yes, I am. How can I help you, officer? Well, somebody was worried about you, and they called us, and we wanted to do a welfare check on you. Well, who's that? So I can call them and tell them not to worry about me. I'm fine. Well, we're going to have to, what do I need to tell you for you to close out this call? Because I'm fine. As you can see, there's nothing going on. I'm completely okay. Thank you. Can you tell me who, initiated this? Well, I'd like to know so I can tell them not to. Maybe they're mad at me because they think I'm ghosting them because I didn't return a text in a timely manner or some shit. Maybe they've got some other beef with me and they just want to mess with me. Maybe you're being used, officer, by somebody who filed a false police report and is misusing emergency services. As you can see, I'm fine. Well, they're going to want to run your information then. They want to see something in plain view then. Okay? This can lead, first off, it's violence. All right? So if you got somebody who's manipulative, vindictive, and they want to do something like that to you, they're being violent to you, because when someone that shows up at your door with a gun, that's violence. The coercive threat of violence exists. I was a training officer as a cop. Any fucking cop out there would tell you, what is the lowest level of force on the use of force continuum? Uniformed armed officer presence is the lowest use of force. So if you got somebody that if I ever find out someone did that to me, that person's out of my life. You don't ever deal with that with somebody who's being manipulative with you. Too many fucking frenemies out there. I don't deal with it. So, let's see where I was at. Okay, so I was talking about, okay, objective morality, simply put, is not only do not, this is objective morality. Yes, it's objective. Morals are objective. God's already put out in the universe what is objectively moral for us and what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. Okay? So, but simply put, it's do not do to another that which you would not want done to you. It is also do unto another that which they have done unto you. I'll add that. Because when Jesus talked about turning the other cheek, it was in reference to being metaphorically slapped, not physically slapped in the face. Because after his teachings were ignored, he quote unquote turned the other cheek and he kept teaching. Jesus wasn't, that's some bullshit because they want to create pacifists. They want to create tranquils. Jesus was anything but that. He was flipping over tables, chasing people with sticks, and calling bullshit on everybody. He was a real prophet. Prophets are truth tellers. There's a certain religion in this world that does not acknowledge any prophets. Therefore, they don't acknowledge any truth. And we got a bunch of Jesus freaks following them. I'll say, God is real. God is real. Not is it real. God is real. And he's not some glowing giant guy with a beard in the desert sky. Okay, I'm naming the real enigma behind the myth, okay? Power and social control. The way the narrative keeps people trapped in the realm of effects is to never look at the realm of causality, and why false authority exploits that blindness. Okay, this is a clean message. I'm not being all fluffy about it. Karma, the law of cause and effect, is a law that governs human behavior, civilizations, and our collapse if it is not adhered to. Okay, the realm of effects versus the realm of causality. Most people live in the realm of effects, their stories, their symbols, their narratives, emotional reactions, their myths, authority scripts, heroes and villains, moral theater. Moral theater. That's all we're seeing. This is where the hero's journey traps people because it keeps them reaching to the effects instead of the underlying causes, the realm of causality. What is that? If we understood the realm of causality, there would be no hero's journey. A hero wouldn't be needed. You wouldn't need some mythic hero or some figure who sacrificed for all of us. The real heroes would be somebody shoveling a driveway for somebody that can't quite shovel a driveway, or maybe taking somebody out of a burning house, or bring a lost cat back home. That would be a real hero. We wouldn't need these epic heroes if people understood the plane of causality. Okay, the realm of causality is different. It's natural law. It's objective morality. Cause equals effect. Action, consequences. Truth, the outcome. Alignment, stability. Violation, collapse. Civilizations fall not because of some kind of mythic cycle, but because of moral causation. Okay, this is the same stuff that Stoics and Vedic philosophers and Hermeticists all said. They use narrative. They'll reframe a narrative and use it as a weapon for false authority. Narrative trickery, misdirection, emotional manipulation is a big one. They want to get you in your feels. False emergencies. Have we seen any of that? False emergencies. False moral framing. Okay, so that pizza example, the swatting example are perfect illustrations of the same principle. If someone can control the story, they can control the reaction. This is how governments justify wars, Religions justify obedience. Media justifies fear, and they're good at it. Operation Mockingbird. Institutions justify intrusion, and individuals justify manipulation, abuse, and harm. The welfare check weaponization is the same pattern. A false narrative triggers a real-world force response. That is why natural law is so important. It cuts through the narrative and looks only at causation. I'm going to say this loud and clear. I love life. When I say I'm not afraid to die, that doesn't mean I want to. It just means I've already died twice. I was close to it once, and another time I actually flatlined. I've already been halfway there a couple times. That makes you a little less afraid. I'm actually more afraid because they say the third time's a charm. I want to live. I love life. Understand that. And if someone doesn't hear from me for a few days, it's because I want to be left alone. I'm thinking about getting rid of my cell phone altogether. It's a leash. I'm thinking about getting a landline, and people can leave me messages, and I'll call them back if I want. I can keep a phone offline just to have a GPS. That's fine. All of a sudden, am I going to get a bunch of welfare checks because people can't get a hold of me? Get the fuck out of here. I already can see ahead. I've been told, yeah, you are a clairaudient empath, highly intuitive. Maybe I'm not then, if someone doesn't think I can't look ahead and see shit. All right? So, the definition of morality and natural law, it's not religious dogma. It's clean. It's accurate. Do not do to others that which you would not want done to you. That's the non-aggression principle. And do to others that which they have done to you. That's self-defense or reciprocity. Okay? Reciprocity is not negative. It's like natural law. I shovel an elderly lady's driveway for her, and next thing I know, I got a hot plate of food that night. You know, I believe in God the Most High, because one day, actually it was 2 days ago, I said a prayer. Man, I haven't had a home-cooked meal in a while. I hope so-and-so, I'm not going to say her name, brings me some food. Because she's done it a lot before. I could really, and next thing I know, that night I had some, man. So that was me putting my intention out, and that's what I got back. Boy, was I thankful. Okay? So reciprocity is not about vengeance or cruelty. It just restores equilibrium. Reciprocity is boundaries, actually. Set boundaries with people. And then enforce them. You know, nature will automatically self-correct. Ecosystems, population rebalances. Okay, imbalances will collapse. And violations trigger consequential effects of natural law, sooner or later. And what we're allowing in the world right now is nothing but violence and theft. Human civilizations are no different. We violate natural law long enough, the civilization is going to collapse. It happened to the Lemurians. It happened with the Atlanteans. Whether by internal decay, which is what's happening, or the external system, or both, we've seen cataclysms. This seems to happen before. We're in this loop. Okay, and I'm not talking about superstition. I'm talking about structural inevitability based on the historical archaeological record. Okay? See, there's a misuse of this myth of the hero's journey, his suffering as virtue. I reject it. The hero's journey is popularly taught, it keeps people in the realm of effects by glorifying suffering, martyrdom, endurance, obedience, self-sacrifice, returning to the system that harmed you. This is why I reject it. It's not a myth of empowerment, it's a myth of compliance. Jesus turning the other cheek is the most misunderstood teaching in history. My interpretation is correct. And actually, that specific interpretation I got from Mark Passio, thank you. And when he said it one day, it made perfect sense. Turn the other cheek, that makes sense. That gets away from this contradiction that Jesus is flipping over tables and chasing somebody with a stick and they wanted to murder him from telling the truth, but he's letting someone slap him in the face on the other cheek. No, Jesus is the type of guy that would have dropped you with a straight right if you tried to do that. Personally, physically, if you would have hurt him, he probably would have defended himself. Okay? What I'm seeing, the deeper pattern, is moral obfuscation. It is the core mechanism of our societal decay. It's how they're fooling the order followers into thinking they're doing something good. Okay? When people can no longer tell the difference between moral and immoral actions, collapse becomes inevitable. Obfuscation doesn't change causation. Calling theft taxation doesn't change the effect. Calling war liberation or freedom doesn't change the effect. Calling censorship safety doesn't change the effect. Calling coercion care doesn't change the effect. Calling obedience virtue doesn't change the effect. Nature doesn't care what we call things. It responds to what we do and do not do. And no one can hide from that. It will respond to what's being done. This is why I see the same patterns in ancient collapses and geological resets and lost civilizations and mythic cycles and historical cycles. Not because of fate, because of cause and effect. What I'm really circling is I'm not rejecting myth. I'm rejecting the weaponization of myth. I'm not rejecting spirituality. I'm rejecting narrative control. I'm not rejecting morality. I'm rejecting moral distortion and obfuscation. Okay, it's what I want is a shift from myth as coping to myth as clarity, story as a control to story as an illumination. This is what I did when I told my story at Funnel 5. Okay, I don't want to see the hero as the martyr. The hero should be seen as a sovereign. I want alignment over suffering, clarity over obedience, sovereignty over narrative, natural law over emotional manipulation. Okay, if I was going to say which natural laws that I see broken the most, there's 7 of them. Let me name them off real quick. Murder, assault, rape, theft, trespassing on someone's property, coercion, and lying. Out of all those, which is the one we see the most? My opinion, this is strictly my opinion, lying and coercion. And ultimately it leads to cowardice. Lying and coercion are at the root of almost every collapse, every abuse of authority, every breakdown of natural law. What I'm pointing to is the way these two forces distort the entire chain of causality, creating a world where people react to illusions instead of fucking reality. When that distortion becomes widespread, civilizations lose the ability to self-correct. And that's about where we're at. How does lying break natural law? It is a causal distortion. It severs the link between action and consequence by hiding the true nature of the action. A lie creates 3 layers of damage. It binds the target, preventing them from making informed decisions or choices. It binds the liar because they now operate inside their own little fiction. I've watched this in my personal life in the last year and a half. It not with me, with someone I had to defend myself against. It binds the system because decisions are made on false data. Once truth is obscured, every downstream effect becomes corrupted. And then you don't want to believe nothing. That's the first lying domino. Coercion breaks natural law. That's the second domino. Because it forces somebody to do something they wouldn't otherwise do. It violates the principles of non-aggression, sovereignty, free will, and moral agency. Coercion creates a world where people act out of fear rather than alignment. Fear-based action always produces chaotic, destructive effects. Okay, lying and coercion combined, and they always are, false emergencies. Okay, false authority, false morality, false consent, false narratives, false enemies, false heroes. The hero's journey can kiss my ass. This is the architecture of every abusive system that needs to be changed. And why do these two violations lead to collapse? Because civilizations don't fall because of cycles or fate. They fall because truth becomes optional, consent becomes irrelevant, and narratives replace reality. And everyone's afraid to speak up what they're fucking really seeing. Fear replaces reason. Authority replaces responsibility. Once a society normalizes lying and coercion, it loses the ability to perceive danger, correct course, or maintain equilibrium. Nature will step in and restore balance, often violently. Okay? We've seen this pattern behind ancient collapses, ecological resets, political implosions, cultural fragmentation, moral decay. Not because of mythic destiny of some hero, but because of causal inevitability. Okay, my example, the pizza prank, right? Swatting or the weaponized welfare check. All follow the same structure. A lie is told, authority reacts to the lie as if it were truth, coercive force is deployed, an innocent person suffers because of the consequences. This is the realm of effects. This is like threatening somebody that you're going to do something. The realm of causality is the lie itself. When a society allows lies to trigger force, it becomes unstable. Why objective morality matters? Do not do unto others that which you would not do unto you is non-aggression. The golden rule. And do unto others that which they have done unto you. That's reciprocity. It's not vengeance. Someone does something nice, do something nice for them back. That's what we need to see more of in the world. I am not a violent person. I'm not saying that in a violent way. It's a law of nature. It's how people help one another. It's voluntarism. Okay, when a society abandons these principles, we become morally inverted. And that's exactly what Satanists do. A society that honors natural law will become stable. Let me see. Let me take a sip of this. When a story is altered to change behavior, it's and something is meant to manipulate somebody. It's not for truth. It's to control behavior. So something deeper that I'm kind of circling is, I'm describing a moment when a civilization stops living in reality and starts living in narrative. When that happens, lying and coercion become the operating system. And once that happens, collapse is not a possibility. It is a certainty. So, love is the law under all things in the universe. And if love is the operating system, courage is the password. When you look at modern society, do you think it's distortion of the truth or the distortion of consent that's causing our problems? Both, equally. Okay? Both. If you're biting into a gaslight that big, you're allowing yourself, you're consenting to things that you otherwise wouldn't consent of. You need to really question yourself as to why. Okay, so both are wrong. Go vote more harder. Suffering is not a virtue, and martyrdom is not destiny. I reject it. Everyone should. The moment you stop living someone else's story, you return to the realm of causality. I am not Odysseus. Nobody is. Where truth, sovereignty, and natural law take over, that's where real freedom begins. Again, suffering is not a virtue. Martyrdom is not destiny. The moment you stop living in someone else's story, you return to the realm of causality, where truth, sovereignty, and natural law take over. That's where real freedom begins. Okay, with that said, folks, I'm about to run over. right into it. That was a lot to cover. Until next week, stay safe. Remember that mercury is Gatorating, which is why I was probably so fervently on this tip today. I'm normally not so intense. I don't normally cover so much at one time, but I'll just say freedom under natural law lit a spark. It did the job it was supposed to do, and it was called Freedom Under Natural Law 5 Ignite. It did its job. It ignited me. I've been ignited. The forge is burning. Where's your spark to start speaking out? All right, man. Till next time, nothing but love. Stay safe.